welcome once again to the post-commentary episode of Brutal Legend. In this episode, we're going after the Artifacts of Legend, which are these things that they don't explain to you what they are in the game. In fact, you're seeing one right now.
Looks like
in order to activate, use the Earthshaker. You never hear anything about these in the game. In fact, many people have beaten the game not even knowing these things existed. You only have to hit it once. I did it twice by mistake, basically. But once you interact with them, you'll get some backstory lore, which we'll actually see the first part right now, which is Ormagoden and the Unlovable Things.
In the beginning, all was darkness. That was how the first ones preferred it, for they were so hideous that even they could not bear to look upon themselves. Then came the Fire Beast, a giant monster of flaming molten iron who roared across the sky like an angry comet. His metal body burned so brightly, it illuminated the world and all its hateful creatures. He was Ormagoden, cremator of the sky, and the first ones loathed him because his light forced them to see themselves as they truly were. So they hid underground and dreamed of a day when they could murder the Fire Beast and rid the world of his light forever.
So yeah, there's some of the backstory right there. There are 13 artifacts that we can find, one of which we cannot get right now. Because that's actually requires us to beat the game in order to get it. And we'll look at that after we beat the game, I promise. But yeah, the first 6 are relatively close, or the first 5 are relatively close, with the 6th one being like not too much further away. You can get them in any order, because each time you unlock a new one, it shows you the next scene. Right there, you see, we already have one right there. So yeah, so let's see the next lore. The Roots of Song.
The first ones spent their days feeding from Madronal, the teated tree of drinking. They suckled from her bark a thick nectar that flowed up from her roots, which penetrated the ground so deeply they reached even into the untouched place. There, a beautiful being named Etulia sang to the roots of Madronal, and the tree turned her song into nourishment for the ungrateful creatures above. One day, the greediest of them sneaked into her sanctuary and trapped Etulia in a cage, forcing her to sing only for him. That is how he gained unlimited power over all creatures and became their first and most terrible king.
So yeah, they weren't lying when they said the roots of song. Get it? So yeah, the next one's on the other side of the bridge. Like I said, this is post-commentary, so... crap. Like I said, this is post-commentary, so I had to come up with things to talk about for about 30 minutes. Last episode I did fairly well, just rambling on. I know there's some stuff in video games I wanted to talk about recently. I just don't know what. I just don't remember what it was off the top of my head.
Dying to get out.
And every time we go to talk, we're gonna start this, so it's not like it's gonna be too long. And we got Fall of the Fire Beast is the next story.
The king used the song of Etulia to lure the Fire Beast Ormagoden to the ground, where the first ones trapped him and tried to douse his flaming body with mud. Rather than be extinguished, the mighty fire beast let out an earth-shattering scream and exploded like a sun. 1,000,000 pieces of his steel flesh shot into the ground, veining it with ore. His fire flew up into the sky and became the sun. There was so much blood it flooded the world, drowning all the first ones as it formed the oceans. His death cry was so loud that it echoes throughout the world to this day. Low creatures felled the god Ormagoden, but his death gave the world the elements from which a new era would rise. Blood, fire, noise, and metal.
This is so metal. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, like learning about the origins of this world, because it gives you such an interesting backstory too. And it kind of makes sense from a mythological standpoint, like how crazy it is. I don't know, like, apparently the entire inspiration for this game came from, like, album covers. Or I guess maybe the design of the world came from heavy metal album covers. So it's like, it makes sense that, you know, you'd have to create an equally as epic game or backstory for this stuff. Especially considering when you look at, like, when you look at metal in general, it's like, it's usually like epic stories of ancient beasts and men and such. Or just a song about killing orcs. So here we have the Age of Titans.
From the oceans of blood came new life, the worst of which was the tainted coil. With the twisted forms of the first ones, but the angry power of Ormagoden, they were hated, feared, and almost exterminated. Instead, they were saved by a majestic race of titans who inherited the strength and size of the fire beast and the purity and beauty of Etulia. They took pity on the small creatures and adopted them as pets. They hid their deformities with severe restrictive garments, and the coil endured the pain because, more than anything else, they wanted to look exactly like their beloved, merciful masters.
Did they just explain bondage? You know what? I don't want to know. So that's what, number 4? Yeah, and then we're going to be heading somewhere. And I'm trying to remember where we headed off to. I mean, I point at it on the map, so basically just go to the last place I locate, or you just follow along on here. Just kind of.
Just cruising for demons.
Or, you know, you can do what I did and just look up a map online. There's a entire wikia for Brutal Legend, and they have maps that have, like, each map has like locations for different collectibles, which you kind of need. So you have the speed of metal.
The Titans mined Ormagoden's steel flesh from the ground and found it retained the beast's desire for speed. They forged swords that flew through the air so fast they could not be seen, and armor so light it made their warriors run faster. They made chariots so quick it was hard to find beasts fast enough to pull them, and so they abandoned the beasts and made giant vehicles that moved with their own power. These colossal hot rods were a rolling temple to Ormagoden, forged from his gleaming flesh. They had a fiery engine for a heart that roared with the mighty god's death cry, scattering the Titans' enemies as they carried their civilization across the globe.
So yeah, the Titans invented hot rods. And did all that by mining the flesh of an old god. Again, the mythology is a very interesting one, and it feels very much inspired from like Greek, Roman, Norse like all these different kind of mythologies from the ancient worlds, like the ancient religions. And it's kind of amazing how kind of elaborate how far they went into like these elaborate attempts to try to explain like why exhaust pipes exist just prodding out of trees, and why the beasts and monsters and creatures look the way they do and act the way they act. Like you look at the trees, look at the top of the trees. You look at the top of the trees, you can actually see, exhaust pipes from them. The Sea of Black Tears.
After she was used to lure Ormagoden to his death, Aetulia was left to cry alone in the darkness for an eternity. She wept for so long, her tears turned into an ocean of pure sorrow, and she turned to dust. Whomever drinks from this ancient sea of black tears is granted some of Aetulia's power, but also cursed with her all-consuming grief. Most tear drinkers go mad and destroy themselves and everything around them in a murderous rage. The Titans dropped a mountain on top of the sea to keep themselves safe from its allure. But it is said that through the cracks in the mountain you can still hear Aetulia singing, inviting passers-by to come lose themselves in her sad waters.
Ooh. So that explains the Sea of Black Tears. So because Aetulia was wrapped with grief and sorrow, she couldn't stop crying, and it eventually created the sea. So this next one that we're heading up to, the Statue of Ragnarok this is where, like, you can't unlock this until after you've defeated Lion White and gotten into the second continent. So during the beginning parts of the game, you can get the first 6. Then you can get 2 more after you beat Lion White. And once you cross over to the second continent, you can get 4, or you can get 3 more. And then once you beat the game, you can get the last one. The last one is actually behind the enemy stage in the last mission, and you can't get to it until after you disable it. Which hopefully, because we got those solos last episode, should be a lot easier than it was before when I attempted to do it the first time. Technically speaking, that's not even the last mission either. We still have one more mission after that. Neither mission is a fun mission to deal with. But for kind of different reasons, really. The first one of the 2 isn't fun because, it's not bad if you prepare ahead enough. I mean, it may take you 2 or 3 tries to do it, but once you kind of learn the map and kind of take the time to prepare, and you got plenty of time to prepare, then it shouldn't be too hard. The big problem is that there's a specific unit in there that you have to take care of, and I'd completely forgotten about it until I retried it my last attempt, which was like the same day I recorded episode 15. I failed so miserably. I could probably should have kept it, but Song of the Titans is the next one.
Titan civilization exploded with new art and technology. Their cities flourished with culture and echoed with the sound of pounding metal as gleaming skyscrapers were hammered out of Ormagoden's flesh and vaulted against the sky. From this collision of artistic passion, invention, and sonic overload, a new kind of music was born. It was as hard and heavy as the fire beast's metallic flesh. It had the power of his blood, the heat of his fire, the speed of his flight, and the mighty roar of his death cry. But it also had the angelic beauty of Etulia's song, and a touch of her mournful wail. Its words told the story of a fierce and noble age. It was an anthem of the people, and they called it heavy metal.
So we had the origins of heavy metal. So yeah, they explained the origins of heavy metal. Go figure. There's one more down the snow path we can get. It's fairly close to that motor forge, so yeah, somewhere around there where I'm pointing at right now. I'm trying to think of anything to talk about now. I'm into this last episode. Like I have like a million different things I can possibly talk about, and none of them I can think of off the top of my head right now. Because I'm doing this kind of spur of the moment sort of thing when I can. Because I mean, I have work in a few hours, and so I don't have enough time to actually do regular episodes during the week anymore. Because I may have like enough time to record like one episode, like a 30-minute episode or so, maybe two. But then I have like other things I gotta do as well, and I don't wanna like run out of time to do those. It doesn't help that like I'm like tired. Like I'm just like I wake up in the morning. I don't want to do Let's Play. I just kind of want to chill for what little time I have. I get home. I get home at 12:30 now. I go in a little later, get home a little later, so that kind of makes sense. But it's like I just want to, Anyway, we have the metal gods.
After growing and advancing for millennia, the Titans were giant, all-knowing entities of spiritual perfection who could no longer be confined by this mortal plane. In the final stage of their evolution, they ascended into the heavens to become metal gods. Before they left, they took time to weave instructions for all they had invented into the natural world. They taught spiders how to spin guitar strings for webs, and the trees how to grow exhaust pipes for branches. They etched hieroglyphics that showed how to put these elements together. We give our secrets to the future generations, they inscribed in glowing letters, so that they may know the glory of metal.
That is epic. Oh my god. This is so epic. Oh, so there's 4 more we can get. How am I getting my numbers mixed up? So yeah,
We're just marching around, kicking.
I also keep, yeah. Like I was saying, like there's so much I could be talking about. There's so many topics that we could be talking about. I just can't think of a single one. I could always talk about how Digital Homicide went under. Finally, how they finally got their games kicked off of Steam because oh, they did not know how to handle their. I'm gonna say is if you're gonna end up attacking the consumer base, you don't deserve to have consumers. And especially if you're going to attempt to sue 100 people and only gives 3 names. And what else is it? According to the subpoena they gave to Steam, apparently the subpoena would give them the real-life names and addresses of the people in question that they were looking up, which means that they could potentially find the people's home addresses and potentially do some things that you probably shouldn't give crazy people the ability to do. Steam said no, and instead said, you know what? If you're gonna be like this, we're gonna kick your games off Steam. And actually, I think they just wanted an excuse to get rid of them anyway. They were so bad. Doesn't stop the rest of Steam from having, the whole load of garbage. Apparently, I learned that apparently Steam's database of games has increased 40%. The total amount of Steam games the total amount of games on Steam, 40% of Steam's total games were released this year.
The tainted coil never comprehended the Titan's instructions. They were too consumed
I forgot to read
with
the
their
title of this one, I'm
feelings
sorry.
of abandonment and betrayal. How could their masters leave them alone? Where had they gone? They searched the entire world, but the only trace of the Titans they ever found was a single shred of a single nail from a single toe of their old masters. They worshipped the master's nail and tried to reanimate it with dark and bloody rituals. But all they could create was small replicas of the Titans, creatures no bigger than themselves, whose very size mocked the coil's failure. And that is how the tainted coil came to create and immediately despise the race of man.
So yeah, they even show you how man was created in this world. So yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, how 40% of the games in Steam's library is released this year alone. That's more than half. That's almost half their games released in 1 year. And we're not talking about 300 games. We're talking about literally tens of thousands of games on Steam. Tens of thousands of games on Steam are released. Yeah, I'm gonna say tens of thousands of games were released. If we look at the total, yeah, because if we look at the total, Steam has over 10,000 games, more than that. I think they have last I checked, they had 100,000 games or something in their library. They had a massive library of games, and the fact that almost half their games that were released this year is kind of crazy. And then you do some digging around and you realize, most of these games are garbage games that people released for a quick buck, pretty much what Digital Homicide did. A lot of them are asset flips, and a lot of them are the same game, just from a slightly different perspective, quote unquote, or different textures, which is what Digital Homicide did again. A lot of hack companies do that.
In rebellion. He made them into an army, taught them to make weapons, cars, and clothing from the natural world. The man they called Ragnarok was so effective, the desperate coil broke the seal on the sea of black tears, knowing the allure and danger it had for humans. Those who drank first, intoxicated with power, renamed their uprising the Black Tear Rebellion. But madness eventually turned human against human and tore the movement apart. Ragnarok never gave in to the sorrow, and he alone survived. His rebellion crushed, he set off on one final mission to assassinate the tainted emperor. He was never seen again.
So yeah, we're starting to finally get the story of Ragnarok. We got 2 more legends that we can get right now. Both are in the, I don't know, I guess we can call them the Deadlands. Yeah, I guess that's what we'd call them, the Deadlands. We have the Bladehenge area, which I guess you call the Metal Plains. You know, the snow mountain, the mountain behind Lion White's castle. Then you have the Metal Beast jungle. And I guess you could just call it the Amazon jungle. Or, you know, we could get meta and call it the Kiss jungle. That's what all the...
We're just marching around.
Oh, what were they called? The Zawali? Tribe of ancient women dressed in kiss leather and painted up like... Basically, I guess you could say Kiss fangirls. But to be fair, you know... Sure. Yeah, I had to skip ahead here because I had something happen. So yeah, kind of already, like, again, talking about like digital homicide now is like kind of point that don't exist anymore, though they, for good reason, again, it's funny that you see these companies. It's funny because you see. I guess going back to digital homicide a little bit, but more so on Jim Sterling, who did an episode on Five Nights at Freddy's at one point. Well, not so much Five Nights at Freddy's, but kind of the creator of Five Nights, Scott Cawthorn. Who, when he created his first game, was heavily criticized. The game was garbage. It was not Five Nights, and people complained about how the characters looked like creepy animatronics. Instead of doing what digital homicide and a lot of these hacking developers do and start complaining, oh, how dare you make fun of our game and how dare you criticize our game and tell us our game sucks. Our game doesn't suck, you're the one that sucks. We're gonna sue you. Scott Cawthorn looked at this and said, so everyone thinks that my characters look like creepy animatronics. Oh, you know what? Challenge accepted. You guys want creepy animatronics? We'll have creepy animatronics. Bam! Five Nights at Freddy's, and he has not stopped making it since. 2 years later, we're on the 5th Five Nights game. I've yet to play a single one of them at all, because they're not games that interest me. They don't really, to me, they don't look particularly good. But I know that there's other people that are interested in the whole lore and backstory crafting that people, like backdoor, I guess you call it backdoor crafting that a lot of people have done, like Backpack's Theory videos on Five Nights. Just like, really inspiring. Even if like you don't care about the series, you watch this stuff, it's like, this is kind of inspiring stuff that you're doing here, like researching this stuff. Even if it is kind of like, you know, huge amounts of stretching. But yeah, it's like, it's impressive that he took negative criticism, he took all this criticism, and he built. He said, oh yeah, well guess what? Here's my next game, hope you enjoy. And you know, we did. Whereas again, like companies like Digital Homicide and a few others I don't even know the names of, would be more than happy to try to waste time and resources taking out the naysayers. For whatever reason, I don't even know what they're trying to accomplish here. It's not going to make them successful. But anyway, here we have the last one, Abomination Overdrive.
To ensure their dominance over the world forever, the tainted coil decided to hunt down the so-called future generations and take back the wealth of knowledge so unfairly bequeathed to them by the Titans. They performed a 10-year ceremony of orgy and sacrifice that culminated with a gross perversion of time that sent their emperor and most bloodthirsty warrior forward to the age of modern man. Along with the emperor, they sent a small idol of Ormagoden, which would return the traveler if a blood offering were made into its mouth. They also sent a small cadre of the Emperor's slaves, not knowing that among them hid a murderous stowaway.
So yeah, now we have one more left to look at. Like one more that we can unlock now. So yeah, getting more and more into the backstory here. We're kind of seeing like, so Ragnarok. We kind of see how he got thrown forward in time and how Eddie could get here because the idol of Ormagoden was in our possession because Ragnarok got a hold of it. Here we have the last artifact of legend that we can acquire. At least until we beat the final mission in the game. Maggots devour the corpse of hope. Wow, that's kind of a...
When Sukoria arrived in the modern age, she made a horrible discovery. The future belonged to humans, not demons. They were the inheritors of the Titan's legacy, and their civilized world drained her of her spirit, her bloodlust, and her will to live. She could not return a failure, so she released her slaves and retired in defeat to a hidden cave. The stowaway, Ragnarok, stayed with her to complete his mission. But he could not bring himself to kill the pitiful once great warrior. Instead, he took care of her, and they became companions. Far away from their old world and its ancient battles, prejudices, and taboos, an intimacy developed, and then a coupling, and then, miraculously, a child. Its birth left Sukoria lifeless, and Ragnarok took the child out of the cave and raised him in the age of modern man, never telling him of his forbidden ancestry.
So, yeah, that explains why Eddie has the demon powers. His mother was the leader of the Tainted Coil, until she died at least. And that also explains the ridiculous female Sukoria. It also explains who Sukoria was. To begin with, in relation. It was not Ophelia like we had thought. But instead it's actually Eddie. And it wasn't because Eddie was pregnant, because his mother's blood runs in his veins. That's pretty epic.
Through the woods, a girl came sadly.
Pretty interesting
Something
way of
broken in her
explaining the
chest.
backstory, and like a lot of
She
people play
had
this game
dared to
don't even
love
know it
another.
exists.
Alas,
So you get this kind of
no better than the
revelation.
rest.
Almost
Up my path, the girl came gladly. Something opened up my
surprisingly so.
I longed to
almost-
stop
like-
her bleeding heart,
Almost unexpected.
and so I called her to my shores.
So at the end of the episode here, so
Those
the
you
next
trust
episode we'll be
will
going
hurt you
to
badly.
we'll be fighting
Something now
Ophelia.
I'm sure you
Until
see.
then, I'll see you guys.
So drown your tears in me, my
later.
dear, as you drown, my dear, in me.